Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L, and now we're here to talk Shokugeki no Soma chapter 295. And man guys, let me tell you, every time I come into these videos now, I am so ready to tear Soma a new one. Whether it be some kind of weird logic or just some really weird metaphors or just, you know, a really horrible rhetoric, I'm always so ready. But then I think to myself, like, come on Trip, just calm down. It's a manga for kids. And that's what it is at the end of the day. Just because it has a history of giving you a situation which I felt was relatively complex with Azami, just because the first 100 chapters felt really good in terms of the character development and the character interactions. You know, just because we have a history of that doesn't mean I should expect the future of that, because that's not fair to the manga. You know, it's been going on for years. And then I think about you guys, the viewers, and you guys are always so chill and just having so much fun with this, and I think, okay, you know what, let's just be more chill. And that's kind of how I always try to get myself into a mindset when it comes to these chapters. And chapter 295, I think, is one of those chapters, because again, you guys know, whenever we have the rhetoric of superhumans coming into this thing, I always just look at it and it's just like, this is stupid. All right, this is just ridiculous. And this particular chapter ups the ridiculousness to a whole other degree, because I think we're just, you know, I hate the term, the way that the manga is using it, because it's such a loaded term and it just seems to be overpowering a lot of what's going on here. So, you know, this chapter shows Soma's victory, right? The moment that Soma was at a stalemate and he had a second aspect to this treat that he made, we knew, like, Soma's gonna win this. We know this as about as well as we know what the conclusion between Asahi and Tsukasa is gonna be in the next fight, right? We know these conclusions. We knew Soma was gonna win. It was just a matter of seeing how our character is gonna rationalize it. And this chapter gave us a breakdown on Sarge, sort of. She was just kind of like gasming at Soma's superiority. But again, whenever the author is going on this superhuman rhetoric, I feel like he's ignoring some pretty important parts of Soma's past, just because in the grand scheme of things, some things don't make sense. When he's trying to make characters talk in this language, some things just don't make sense. And so Sarge being the current poster boy, like Sarge's character right now is this exposition for why superhuman abilities are so good. That's what she serves as a device. We take away her aspects that make her feel like a human and just look at her function within the story. That's kind of what she is. She's the one that comes in here singing the praises of being superhuman. And so the biggest, most weirdest comment by her, and this might also be the manga stream translation making it worse, because we all know manga stream loves to take some liberties. She says each of these was made by the book. No part of this dish had any sort of special preparation. And all I'm thinking of is this is not Soma. This is the worst statement to ever describe Soma by. It doesn't make sense to me. This character, Soma, who is known for being the most unpredictable person in the Shokugeki no Soma manga, aside from Subaru, who can predict him to some degree, you know. But Subaru, that's a superhuman power. Let's face it, that was superhuman from the very beginning, guys. There's no way someone's able to stalk to that degree. Anyway, you know, not the point. It's just that line makes this character seem extremely stupid and extremely blind. And here's the problem. If the author is trying to make this character seem stupid, then, you know, what can we do? We have to say, well, that's a character flaw. And it is kind of hard to tell what exactly where is the author on this, because where you have this instance of really bad logic from the character here, because again, guys, let's just remind ourselves, she's saying that there was no special preparation. Soma broke a spoon and specifically had that spoon carve out paths, and as we found out, those paths got filled up with whatever sauce Soma used in this cake. I don't remember exactly what it was, but we know it filled into the cracks. To say that that's not special preparation, I think, is a little bit crazy. And I think this girl's just, I think she's taken a bit, she's been too close to those explosions. Okay, so for that little bit of weird logic going on in there, you go over like 2 more pages and you go to Doichiro's breakdown here of Soma's diner wisdom. So the moment that Soma says that his superhuman ability is diner wisdom, guys, what Soma just said is that he's so good because he's experienced. Can you imagine where we are right now? Where we are, again, talking about Soma being good at things because he's experienced. Remember, everything or a lot of the things in Shokugeki no Soma, count how many times they were resolved by Soma using something from the secret Yukihira menu. Every time he called up that trump card, he was saying like, hey guys, this is something that I am bringing out and bringing into my old style based on something that I did in the past. It's ridiculous that we're still on this rhetoric and it's just been glossed over with this whole new superhero makeover. And so, where we have Sarge saying something stupid, we have Joichiro saying something really cool. Where he's talking about the difference between diners and high-class restaurants. And, at first I'm thinking, okay, Joichiro, you're being a little bit too... you're worshipping your restaurant too much, but I actually like the logic that the author used for this one, where he specifically talked about the fact that the customers come in daily. I like that aspect of it. That seems really, really cool. That's a legitimate kind of distinction that I could see in a typical diner for the masses versus a high-end restaurant. That's really neat. That's a really neat idea. I like that. That's awesome. And going back into like the previous chapter, Joichiro also talks about the fact that, hey, we can't afford to bore them. So again, that part seems to be a part about knowing what's going on with the customer. Man, it kind of sounds like hospitality, yeah, whatever. It's Megumi's thing, but hospitality is something that everyone should be able to do. Anyway, with this part going on with Joichiro and talking, the narrative is telling us something that we already know. Soma can do these things because he has the experience of working in a diner for his whole life. That lesson has been the same lesson all throughout Soma. So again, it's just another rehash, only this time you have people calling the weird shenanigans of Totsuki by what they are, supernatural abilities or superpowers. Now the superhuman rhetoric ends at the end of the chapter with Senzaemon talking about let's see how far powerless chefs will rise in a tournament where superhumans cross swords. And again, he's hyping things up, and this is the part that tells me that the author has kind of bought into his narrative here. But it's like, Senzaemon, guy, did you see the crazy people in Totsuki? Soma has been fighting with crazy people since you put him in that school, man. Are you blind to your own students' abilities? Again, guys, we have to look back. Subaru is a super stalker. Let's face it, that's superhuman. Akira is a super smeller. Let's face it, that's superhuman. Rio has the instincts of a wild animal and a weird personality disorder. Might as well call that superhuman. Like, come on. It's funny. It's really funny. Look, man, Soma has always been able to overcome his challenges because of the quick thinking that he developed in his restaurant. That's been the story of Soma, and to just now be treating it like it's something so out of the ordinary, it's just not that. It doesn't seem that smart. I think, honestly, while this arc is kind of fun in certain spots, there is that entertainment level. Like, we have talked about the entertainment level, like, when they're talking about Crumble Fantasy or something, that's Grand Blue Fantasy. I love that reference, man. That's cool. That was totally cool. There is like still that fun aspect, but just on the internal logic of this whole thing, it's a very shitty arc. And speaking of shittiness, going into the next thing, the next chapter is Asahi versus Tsukasa, guys and gals, because there might also be girls watching this. What do you think's gonna happen? Honestly, the Shokugeki no Soma team, sometimes they are able to pull out some victories that you think, oh wow, I didn't expect that, and that's really worthwhile. But the question is, between Tsukasa and Asahi, who's about to lose in order to show that the other one is strong? Is it going to be Tsukasa that's going to lose? It's really unfortunate that we're at a point that when people see Tsukasa versus Asahi as the next match, they're already saying Tsukasa's gonna lose. How terrible is it that we have reached that point, and it's just flat out like that? Man, I love the days of the whatchamacallit, the cuisine, the Regiment de Cuisine, because at least that was trying to figure out the matchups. There was a lot of fun in trying to figure those out. That was cool. But here it's just an issue of, I think that's a pretty good sign that, you know, we're heading into territory where things, or just the excitement's gonna just kind of like level down. You know what I'm saying? Just because if people are having such an easy time just seeing where the author's going with things, you know, where's the excitement? So now we're at a point where we're hoping that, hey man, maybe Tsukasa's gonna win and just throw this whole Dark Chef thing out of the water. Maybe that'd be really cool. I would love that. So, you know, with this chapter, it's just another issue of the dark and light stuff as a rhetoric sucks, and it's hard to tell whether or not the author has bought into this. Has actually bought into this rhetoric and thinks, oh yeah, this is really good and this makes a lot of sense. Like, no, it doesn't. That sense is the furthest away from what it makes. And yeah, while there is that really awesome aspect of the fact that Sarge literally blew up her food, it's kind of stupid when you have these characters talking to each other, because it's just so ignorant. Ignorance has really been like one of the main themes of this arc. Ignorance in terms of just how crazy Totsuki is, and ignorance from the dark chefs to the light chefs. Like, guys, how much of your own Kool-Aid did you drink? Holy. Now, one thing I am really excited for still is kind of the Soma versus Asahi thing, but in this chapter, Sarge goes out of her way to tell Soma that his knife is not good enough. Like, you know, his weakness lies in his knife. And all I'm thinking is, like, what if that knife is a gift that Joichiro got from his wife? All these people are making fun, if that's the case, all these people are making fun of Soma's dead mother's knife. Can you imagine how upset he could be if that's the case? That all these people are just ragging on it, the only thing he has left of his mom? Like, he's hell. There's gonna be hell to pay if that was the case, and that would be pretty cool. So overall, with this chapter of Soma, you know, I look at it and then I look at where Soma is in the magazine order, in the table of contents. You know, it's in the bottom 3, which pretty much says that the editor just thinks that only the Soma fans are going to be reading it. Like, this editor doesn't think people want to see Soma right now. And, you know, I see that placement, and I see that placement over the last couple of weeks, and I'm just thinking, like, yeah, I'm not going to lie. I could see why the head editor of Shonen Jump would put it at the bottom of the magazine. I mean, it's just a question of how their kids are finding this. Do the kids like this? And that's really one of the big things. I think it's really flashy. A lot of this is really flashy, and it's using terms that are easy to understand, like dark versus light. It's just, the fans of Soma started off watching just competitions between students, competitions between people who were super talented and people who weren't super talented. And, you know, that's where Soma got its start. So when you move it into this arena, you're still technically still getting the same thing. It's still a super talented person now being called a superpowered person versus an untalented person. It's still that core dynamic, and now it's in easier to understand terms. But would kids 10 to 15, do they still find this exciting? I mean, I guess the real question is, what makes the confrontation between Soma and Akira so good? What made that confrontation so good back during the Autumn Festival? What was it about those matchups that was so interesting for the viewer, for the readership of Shonen Jump? And this, all I can think of is just maybe characters that were kind of cool to get to know. I mean, Sarge here, you only really get to know her throughout her Shokugeki. Akira, man, one of my favorite moments in Soma is that moment where Akira goes up to June and hugs her when he wins, because that was a really powerful character moment. Are we gonna get these powerful character moments with these bunch of one-note villains that we just recently got introduced to? I really think, like, Soma's draw is its character interactions, because let's face it, beyond cooking and foodgasms, what else does Soma have going for it? It's the characters. So making all these characters that are too edgy for their own good, and then just increasing how the audacity of how they cook, I don't know if that's something that's worthwhile. But at the same time, I don't know if I'm just remembering things, you know, rosy retrospection or whatever. Did Akira actually get that much development before his match with Soma? Well, I don't know. I know for the Polar Star dorm, it was really cool when you had all of the Polar Star kids getting their cool titles. You know, like the kid with the glasses got his Scholar of Cuisine or something. You know, that was really cool when all those guys were getting their titles. And what made that cool? It was that you had seen these characters for a while and you thought they were plebs, but hey, look, man, they were getting their accolades. So, you know, you come into this tournament, a tournament that makes fun of all the characters that you've seen before, and sees them as people that are just there to make the Dark Chef stronger. You take away those accolades from them, and even on the superhuman corner, you take away the right from people who are legitimately superhuman, like Akira and them, and then you just slap in the 3 more popular characters. You know, it's kind of a disrespect to the history of Soma. But I don't know if younger readers care. Anyway, we've gotten into a really deep conversation there, and I'm sorry for boring you guys with all that, but it's just I just find it really interesting with Soma's narrative. You know, there's a difference between things that happen in a story naturally, organically, versus things that happen because of the plot devices that govern storytelling. You know, the necessities of the author versus the necessities of the world within the story. And that disparity just becomes more clear as you go into this rhetoric. And it's just weird. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day. And yeah, let me know what you thought down below. Like, I know you guys, you're all just on it for the ride. But if you have any thoughts about narrative, you know, feel free to share it. But at this point, I know, like Midmat, Invader In, I know your guys' thoughts on or takes on a lot of these. Yeah, cool stuff. Till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.